As the NBA trade deadline approaches, it also signifies that the buyout market will start to intensify afterward, or at least it used to signify that. However, during the 2024-25 NBA season, with the new CBA coming into effect, it is expected to heavily restrict, if not completely eliminate, the buyout market we once knew. The new CBA will greatly limit both first apron and second apron teams from participating in the market. For those who may not be informed, they are not only restricted in trades, but also in signing free agents. Teams can no longer sign a player who was waived during the regular season if that player had a previous salary exceeding $12.9 million, otherwise referred to as the mid-level exception. This generally applies to about half of the NBA players, especially the more valuable ones. Considering this, will the buyout market be entirely cut off for the Lakers, who are part of the first apron teams, or could they be fortunate enough to find a player who makes below that threshold? We will discuss the restrictions on players they can sign, as I've seen some of you mention a few names, as well as other potential players they might be able to acquire. However, before we dive deeper, let's review our game day picks with Underdog Fantasy, the best platform to engage with NBA action this season. If you're a new user, you can choose Nikola Jokic to score higher than 0.5 points later tonight, so take advantage of that free pick. For my first pick, I have LeBron hitting higher than 1.5 3-point shots. He hasn't achieved 2 or more in 5 consecutive games, so I believe he can do it again tonight. For pick number 2, I have Alex Sarr recording over 6.5 rebounds, as he's accomplished that in 3 straight games, and the opponents usually allow a lot of rebounds, so he's likely to surpass that mark. Lastly, for my third pick, I have Keon George exceeding 1.5 assists. With the new buyout market and the regulations established by the recent CBA, can the Lakers capitalize on this opportunity, or will they have to overlook it and miss out on potential benefits? This largely depends on the specific players in question. Take Lonzo Ball, for instance. There is uncertainty regarding whether he will be traded or bought out. The same applies to Malcolm Brogdon and Bruce Brown Jr., all of whom have been associated with the buyout market, as their current teams are considering trades or potentially waiving them to negotiate buyouts, meaning they would relinquish some salary to become free agents and subsequently join new teams. Unfortunately, the Lakers cannot sign any of these players. All 3 currently earn over $12.9 million, making them ineligible for the Lakers, even if they expressed interest. Unlike the past seasons when they were able to sign players like Maurice Morris in 2019-2020, Andre Drummond the following year, or Spencer Dinwiddie last season this year, they cannot sign any of these players, as all have salaries exceeding $12.9 million for their respective seasons. That also includes other players like Lonzo Ball, Malcolm Brogdon, or Bruce Brown Jr. Nonetheless, there may still be some players available that make under $12.9 million that could potentially become accessible on the open market, and we'll discuss a few of them, considering which teams would or should acquire them and which players might be a significant asset to the teams if they become free. For our first buyout candidate, there is Bozum Miak of the Charlotte Hornets, who is 31 years old and only in his second season in the NBA, yet possesses considerable experience as a point guard, a role the Lakers are in need of. He spent nearly a decade in Europe, predominantly playing point guard, and even secured an MVP title while there. Although his NBA performance hasn't been remarkable, he could indeed be a buyout candidate who may thrive better on a different roster, bringing valuable playmaking skills to the table. He's currently posting about 3.5 assists per game, while only averaging around 20 minutes per game, equating to about 6.5 assists per 36 minutes. Last season, he averaged 8 assists per 36 minutes with just 3 turnovers per game, which is quite commendable overall. He is a gifted playmaker with excellent court vision, able to pinpoint openings on the court and facilitate plays effectively. Standing at 6'5", he has the height advantage to see over defenses, combined with a solid build of 200 lbs for a point guard. He may not be the best defender, but he won't get easily overpowered and can occasionally hit a 3-point shot, though he wouldn't be classified as a great or even a decent 3-point shooter currently. Slightly below the league average at 34% on roughly 3.5 attempts per game indicates he is improving and becoming more at ease with the NBA three-point line. He could develop into a decent to good three-point shooter in time. However, the main takeaway here is his playmaking skills. After LeBron and Austin Reeves, he would be their third best point guard and playmaker as well, making him a potentially valuable addition to the team. Furthermore, I think he is a fairly realistic buyout candidate, although another potential option could be someone like Alec Burks, currently with the Miami Heat, who has seen inconsistent playing time throughout the season while only earning a veteran minimum salary. Therefore, he wouldn't exactly be a buyout candidate, but he might simply need to be waived by his team or could be traded in a multi-team deal alongside a Jimmy Butler trade. This scenario is certainly plausible, and I believe he would be a solid contribution to their roster or any contending team off the bench. He's averaging roughly 6 points per game in about 16 minutes and boasts a shooting percentage of 45% from 3 on 3.1 attempts per game, equating to around 7 attempts per game for every 36 minutes. Over the past 5 years, Alec Burks has consistently been a valuable yet underrated player, capable of contributing in various ways, serving as a competent, albeit unremarkable defender, a reliable scoring option, and providing some playmaking skills. And overall is a dependable 3-and option, although not excelling at any single aspect except perhaps three-point shooting, which he's quite skilled at, and for a team such as the Lakers, who lack a solid three-point shooter like him off the bench, I hope Doom KCK returns to his form from earlier this season. I'm uncertain if he ever will, but he's certainly performing well in that rookie ball. Personally, I prefer a player like Alec Burks over him this season concerning dependability and reliability. If he were to hit the open market, I would definitely consider signing him, and I believe the Lakers would too. If not Burks, another veteran guard option and point guard could be either Kyle Lowry or Reggie Jackson, especially if Philadelphia continues to struggle, which currently seems to be the case for their team. If this trend persists, one or both of them might request a buyout for a new team. Being point guards, I think the Lakers would explore these too, as they have been linked to both in the past, particularly Kyle Lowry. They could provide solid guard depth off the bench and enhance the team's playmaking abilities. While they may not be the players they once were, Lowry can still deliver decent defense, effective playmaking, reliable three-point shooting, and serve as a veteran leader in the locker room. For Reggie Jackson, he's more offensively focused, slightly younger yet still 35 years old, and presents a more explosive option off the bench with enhanced three-point shooting and scoring capabilities as a point guard. There is certainly a defensive downgrade when compared to Kyle Lowry. However, both point guard options I have in mind should see at least one of them become available, either from being waived or even traded and subsequently waived. I believe that it's quite probable one of them will enter the open market. For our last option, I'd like to suggest one big man. While there are definitely others to choose from, particularly not in terms of a buyout candidate, one option may currently play for the Washington Wizards. No, not you, Jonas Valanciunas. He's more of a trade consideration for their team, though not a strong one in my opinion. Rather, I refer to the number 2 overall draft pick from 2018, Marvin Bagley III. Yes, he is currently injured but is expected to return soon, and he could be considered a buyout candidate. He's slightly under the cutoff for a buyout option, making $12.5 million this season, just over $400,000 below that apron threshold. Should he hit the open market, a team could sign him. Although he may not be the most enticing choice and has certainly underperformed, not fulfilling the expectations of being a number 2 overall draft pick, he could still represent an intriguing addition for their roster or any team. Given that the Lakers have recently taken chances on former lottery big men like Jackson Hayes, I believe they would also have interest in Marvin Bagley, who is primarily a center but can play power forward, possessing solid size at about 6'10" and 235 and quite athletic near the basket, can certainly fulfill that role for them. Theoretically could share the court with Anthony Davis, has demonstrated some capacity for three-point shooting with a 39. 1% from beyond the arc last season, although it was on limited attempts, was shooting 20% this season before his injury and has exhibited some proficiency with a solid mid-range shot. Definitely possesses more talent around the basket and overall Isama's offensive or defensive ceiling for that matter. But there is UNT potential here regardless. I believe he'd provide an intriguing option for their roster. One could argue he'd be a better fit for their team compared to Jackson Hayes Christian. If he regains full health, and also considering the two-way contract players too, so from this angle, he might be an entertaining and noteworthy choice. Once again, there's definitely untapped potential. He can be a reasonable defender when engaged and would undeniably benefit from playing alongside someone like Anthony Davis, a strong rebounder pulling down 10.5 rebounds per 36 minutes, and then an effective offensive player, skillful one averaging around 19.5 points per game per 36 minutes. Thus I think he'd serve as a solid addition off the bench, simply providing them with more frontcourt versatility, more depth at both center and power forward, and overall another versatile choice as well. But with that noted, I think that wraps up our discussion on Buyout candidates. Once more, unfortunately, they cannot acquire a player earning over $12.9 million, and that opens up a lot of choices for them, but there may still be a few that could enter the open market, and I would certainly be keen on some of those if that occurs. With that said, what are your thoughts on the Buyout market outlook and their team's perspective in particular? Please share your opinions in the comments below. I think that will wrap it up for this one. If you enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate it if you gave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on my uploads. As always, thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.